So let's just get it out of the way. Is the metaverse dead? If you think it was just a flash in the pan, a hype bubble that popped, well, you're not wrong to feel that way. I mean, the whole idea got completely steamrolled by the generative AI boom, right? But here's the thing. Declaring it dead means you're missing the real story. And trust me, it's a wild one. So let's actually unpack what's being built behind the scenes.
Look, let's be honest. The vision we were all sold on was a little clunky. A sort of cartoon world for hanging out. And for most of us, it just didn't land. It felt a bit silly, and it totally failed to capture our imagination. So yeah, the skepticism is 100% understandable.
But that brings us to the real puzzle here. If the whole thing was such a flop, why are giant companies still pouring, and I mean pouring, tens of billions of dollars into it? That massive disconnect between what we think is happening and where the money is actually going, well, that's what we're going to get into right now.
And it turns out the answer is pretty simple. While the social metaverse was busy stalling out, a much stranger and frankly more powerful metaverse was being built where nobody was really looking. Not in virtual nightclubs, but in high-tech research labs and massive industrial sites. We're not talking about just another place to hang out. We're talking about a new way to interact with parts of our world that are either too dangerous to touch or too small to even see.
So you really have to think of it like this. There are two metaverses. There's the one we all heard about, the social one for games and entertainment, but then there's this other one, the industrial and scientific one, that's actually gaining serious traction because it's being built to solve some incredibly tough, real-world problems. Let me show you a perfect example. Okay, so take the nuclear power industry. They are facing a mountain of challenges. For one, you can't just waltz into a nuclear plant whenever you want. Access is super restricted for obvious reasons. On top of that, their most experienced, most skilled engineers are starting to retire, and they're taking decades of know-how with them. And finding new people, that's getting harder and harder. It's a logistical nightmare.
And this is where it gets really cool. Hitachi came up with a metaverse platform that creates a perfect, high-precision digital twin of an actual nuclear facility. Think of it like a one-to-one virtual replica. So now engineers can walk through the entire plant, plan complicated maintenance, and train new people, all in virtual reality, without ever stepping foot on the physical site. It's not a gimmick. It's a direct solution to some very serious problems.
But what's absolutely mind-blowing is that the same idea works at the complete opposite end of the scale. We're talking atomic. A research paper by Tsuo Dio and his team describes what they call a Metaverse laboratory. They connected a mixed reality headset to an incredibly powerful microscope. This allows a scientist to literally see individual atoms floating in front of them, and then use their own hands to reach out and manipulate them. It makes the invisible visible and tangible. Just think about that for a second.
All right, so it's not just about industry and science. These new digital worlds are also spawning their own bizarre economies, with rules that are totally different and sometimes completely the opposite of how things work in the physical world.
Now, to get a handle on these weird economies, you have to understand this one key idea: network externalities. You've seen this before. It's why a telephone is useless if you're the only one who has one. The more people that join, the more valuable it becomes for everyone. But in the metaverse, this idea gets a twist. It's not about physical stuff. It's about something way more abstract: attention.
And this isn't just theory. Researchers like Sangchot, Nakavachara, and Zhu looked at the virtual world called the sandbox, and they found something that completely flips real-world logic on its head. When a new plot of virtual land was announced, the price of the existing land nearby shot up by an average of 9.3%. Think about that. In the real world, more supply usually means lower prices. But here, more supply made the old stuff more valuable, simply because it drew more eyeballs to that digital neighborhood.
So the researchers basically figured out the cheat codes for this new economy. First, this price bump is super localized. It fades the further away you get. Second, if the new land release is too huge, it actually dilutes the attention and the effect weakens. Third, and this is a big one, the price bump gets way bigger if the new neighbor is a huge brand or a celebrity, kind of like a digital anchor store in a mall. And finally, if something massive happens market-wide, like when Facebook changes its name to Meta, all that global hype can actually drown out these local effects.
Which, of course, brings us back to the elephant in the room: all that money. And we have to talk about the biggest spender in the game, Meta. Their spending has been so unbelievably huge that a lot of people point to it as Exhibit A for why the whole Metaverse project is a failure.
And yeah, the numbers are just staggering. Since 2020,
Meta's Reality Labs, that's their Metaverse division, has reported cumulative losses of over $68 billion. No, that's not a typo. It's an almost impossible amount of money to lose on one bet. So, what on earth is going on?
Well, here's another way to look at it. What if we're all reading the story wrong? Instead of seeing this as a colossal failure, what if it's actually a calculated, long-term strategic investment? What if the goal isn't to turn a profit next quarter, but to achieve total, long-term dominance of the next computing platform?
Because this is what that money has bought them. Right now, Meta controls a jaw-dropping 77% of the entire global VR headset market. See, they famously lost the war for the mobile phone to Apple and Google, and they are not going to let that happen again. Those billions they're losing are really the price they're willing to pay to build a massive strategic moat around their business, to make sure that when this immersive computing stuff really takes off, they own the whole kingdom.
So you've got this high-stakes corporate battle combined with these unbelievably powerful new technologies, and that forces us to face some pretty deep and difficult questions, because as we build this new reality, we are also creating a completely new kind of risk.
And the biggest risk, by far, is our privacy. For these headsets to work, to create a believable experience, they have to collect an insane amount of incredibly personal, intimate data. We're talking about tracking your facial expressions, where your eyes are looking, and for how long, your hand gestures, your body movements, even your heart rate. And that data can be used to figure out some of the most sensitive things about you, from what you're feeling to potential medical conditions.
So as these powerful, strange new realities start to take shape, the question really isn't, is the metaverse dead anymore? The real question, the one we all need to start asking, is this: what kind of metaverse are we willing to build, and what are we willing to give up to live inside of it?